Lula says Trump's tariffs are blackmail. Bolsonaro is a traitor. As 50% duties hit Brazil, Lula slams US pressure and vows, "We won't bow." No retaliation, for now. But he's rallying BRICS, eyeing the WTO and warning, Brazil won't be humiliated. As Trump's trade war slammed into Brazil, Lula has hit back with his fiercest defiance yet. In an exclusive interview with Reuters on August 6th, Brazilian President Luiz Inacio Lula da Silva delivered his strongest words yet against US President Donald Trump's punishing trade policies. As 50% tariffs on Brazilian goods took effect that same day, Lula made it clear he won't be intimidated into submission.
Let me tell you something. A president cannot humiliate himself for another president. I respect everyone. I demand respect towards me.
The Brazilian leader described the current state of the US-Brazil relations as being at a 200-year low, with Trump linking the massive tariffs to his demands for an end to the prosecution of Brazil's former right-wing president, Bolsonaro. But Lula isn't backing down from what he calls an unprecedented intervention in Brazilian sovereignty.
So, what is happening? The civilized way for two heads of state to negotiate is to have the will to make a decision along with Brazil. He could have communicated with Brazil, he could have called, he could have proposed a negotiation. But we received the taxation statement in a completely authoritarian manner. And we are not used to negotiating in this way, not like this.
Despite facing some of the highest tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, Lula refuses to engage in direct talks with the US president, citing Trump's track record of humiliating other world leaders during White House visits. Referencing Trump's treatment of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, Lula said,
"The day my intuition says Trump is ready to talk, I won't hesitate to call him. But today, my intuition says he doesn't want to talk."
The Brazilian president revealed that Trump had been asked in a recent interview whether he would speak with Lula, to which Trump simply replied, "Not now."
I didn't call him because he doesn't want to do phone calls. In the letters he sent with the decisions, he never talks about negotiations. He speaks of new threats.
Rather than responding with immediate retaliation, Lula is taking a measured approach, focusing on helping Brazilian companies affected by the tariffs while refusing to mirror Trump's aggressive tactics.
I am doing all this when I could announce a tax on US products. I will not do so because I do not want to behave like him. I will not do so because I do not want to behave like President Trump. I want to prove a point. I want to prove that when one does not want to fight, two do not fight. And I do not want to fight with the United States.
Beyond refusing to engage in tit-for-tat tariff battles, Lula is positioning Brazil as a champion of multilateralism in an increasingly fractured global order. The Brazilian president revealed plans to coordinate with fellow BRICS leaders to present a united front against Trump's trade policies. Drawing from his background as a union leader, Lula explained his philosophy of collective bargaining on the international stage.
You know why I entered the union? Because a lone worker negotiating with Mercedes, with Ford, with General Motors, the agreement will always be a bad agreement for the worker and good for the business owner. So I strengthened the union so that collectively we could negotiate. What President Trump is doing is tacit. He wants to dismantle multilateralism, where agreements are made collectively within institutions, and replace it with unilateralism, where he negotiates one-on-one with other countries.
Lula announced he would call Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, followed by Chinese President Xi Jinping and other BRICS leaders to discuss a coordinated response.
There's nothing yet, but there will be. There is no articulation in the BRICS, but there will be. Tomorrow I will call Modi, then I will call President Xi Jinping, then I will call other presidents, and I'm going to try to discuss with them about how each one is doing in this situation, what the implications are for each country so we can make a decision.
The Brazilian leader also outlined his strategy for reducing dependence on any single trading partner, emphasizing Brazil's success in diversifying its markets.
Any country that does not want to buy, we are not going to stay crying. Because they do not want to buy, we are going to look for others. What happens is that our trade grew a lot. Just so you have an idea, in just 2.5 years, we opened 398 new markets for Brazil.
Simultaneously, Lula announced plans for a new national policy treating strategic minerals as a matter of national sovereignty to ensure Brazil adds value to its raw materials domestically.
What we really want is this. We won't allow what happened in the last century to happen again, where Brazil exports raw minerals and then buys products with very high added value. No, we want added value here in Brazil. That is why I want Brazil to become the leader of the energy transition. Few countries in the world have the opportunity that Brazil has in this energy transition.
Perhaps most significantly, Lula directly blamed former President Bolsonaro for the current crisis, calling him a traitor to the homeland for allegedly encouraging Trump's hostile stance toward Brazil. The accusation stems from efforts by Bolsonaro's son, Congressman Eduardo Bolsonaro, who moved to the United States earlier this year to seek Trump's support against his father's legal troubles. Eduardo Bolsonaro has claimed credit for pushing the White House to announce the 50% tariffs on Brazilian goods, the highest levied on any nation.
I think he should be judged on other accounts because what he is doing now is to turn the United States against Brazil, affecting the Brazilian economy and the Brazilian workers. And his son should have another process and be condemned as a traitor to the country. Traitor to the homeland. That is what he is.
Despite the current tensions, Lula expressed hope that diplomatic solutions could still be found, while making clear that Brazil has other options if negotiations fail.
If the negotiation is not resolved, we have other mechanisms to make a counterpart. We have the WTO, so we could file a complaint with the WTO. What we want first is to use and exhaust all possibilities in negotiation. Before we take any other measure, that means negotiations are over.
As this trade war intensifies, Lula's message remains consistent. Brazil will not bow to pressure, will not compromise its sovereignty, and will work with allies to defend the principles of multilateral cooperation that have governed international relations for decades.